Hi everyone, welcome to DIY Ideas. So today I want to show you how you can make a really nice bag for yourself. And this is going to be in a tote bag style, but of course this can be a base project for any number of ideas you might have or want to try out. So I'm making this really simple for the reason that I want to have this available for very beginners. So even if you've never done anything before and you would like to try it out, this is a good project for you because we are keeping it really simple, and the end result, as you can see, is going to look really great. So there are no zippers this time, nothing complicated, so it's just fabric and stitches, and it still looks really good. So let's get right to it. Stay tuned. Okay, you guys, so you're gonna need some clothespins or regular pins, whichever you prefer. Then also one safety pin. I'm gonna show you what we're gonna use that for. And then of course, different kinds or the exact same kind of fabric if you want the entire thing to be out of just one type. I have here some faux leather and I do wanna use that just so you can see how that works. I have an inside and an outside fabric as well. Different ones today, but you can do the same if you prefer that. So yeah, these are not stretchy, and that's important for today. If you're a beginner and you don't know how to work with stretchy fabric, I do recommend taking something that isn't. We're also gonna need our fabric scissors for today. Okay, you guys, so we have here the main piece of fabric, or the first big piece that we're gonna need. And I'm going to show you, I have here the front and the back side. So these are 40 times 40 centimeters, and I kind of strengthened them with this back section. So you can kind of just iron this over your fabric or underneath your fabric if you'd like to. Then we also have here the handles of our bag, and that's what I wanted to do as well. So these are 80 centimeters, but I did fold them in half so that they are actually 40, as you can see. And I do want to do two, so I have here the two pieces and then two more in the exact same size. The width is of course completely up to you. Mine are 10 centimeters, but you can change that up as well. So yeah, 80 times 10 centimeters is my size, and we're gonna need two pieces for the one handle and then the two pieces for the other. So that's what you see here. Then I want to show you a little pocket that I'm going to do in the front. This is optional, but I did want to show you how you can do that if you'd like. So I have here the faux leather as well as the inside fabric in the same size. And yeah, this is going to go onto the main piece of the fabric. So I do want an inside as well, just to keep it nice. So I have here 15 times 20 centimeters, that's the size that I want. And you can of course do this bigger or smaller depending on what your bag is like and what you want to do. Then I have the bottom, and I did want to do the bottom a little bit sturdier or a little bit more stable. So I have here the faux leather, and it's again the same size. So you can see that it matches the width here of the main piece of the fabric. So yeah. It's a little bit thicker and it's going to keep everything in place a little bit nicer. So the size here again is 40 centimeters here and 36 centimeters of the length that I folded in half. The inside fabric is again out of two pieces, and it's a bit bigger than the outside piece that you see here, the blue one. So yeah, we have here a total of 40 centimeters of width. So the width is the same, but the length is 75 centimeters. So yeah, just one more time, 40 times 75 centimeters is the size. Okay, so let's do the outside pocket first and the handles, because that's the easiest part and it's gonna be a great warm-up for the main pieces. So yeah, I have these two pieces because my fabric wasn't long enough, so I have two different pieces. You can do one longer one if you have that length of your fabric, but I'm going to show you how you can work with this either way. So as I said, I have this in half because the length didn't suffice, but what I'm gonna do is just put them together and basically stitch them together so that I get one long piece for my handle. So I'm putting this, I'm also making sure that my pattern is facing the same way, so I do want the exact same direction so that it looks nice later. And yeah, what I want to do is put it pretty side on pretty side, just check it first. So what I mean with the pattern, you can see here, if it's the other way around, it's not a big deal, but I think it looks a lot nicer if you align it the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, just decide what you want to do and then put it pretty side on pretty side. And then we're just going to do a regular straight stitch across this little side so that we can connect them into one piece. And that's all we're going to do today with both pieces. Okay, so now I took these apart, the leftover pieces of fabric on the other side of the stitch, and that way we get a neat stitch on the outside as well as on the inside. So now what we want to do is fold them in half, and we do want to do that pretty side on pretty side. So it's going to be on the inside and you're not going to see it for a little bit. So just fold it in half this way. And then we're just going to close off basically this longest side that you see right here to get kind of a tunnel piece. After you finish this, what we want to do is basically turn everything inside out, and this is where the safety pin comes into play. So we're going to just push it through the one side on the end, either end of your little tunnel, and we're just going to push the needle, the safety pin on the inside all the way through the other ending. And it's a lot easier this way because you can feel it inside the fabric instead of just making this really difficult for yourself without it. So make sure to try this out. It's a really good trick and it's really used often in sewing projects. So now I did want to hide the stitch, this longer stitch on the inside of my handle. So this I did by just simply ironing over it, and that way I can kind of control where the stitch is going to be, and that way I can later hide it on the inside. So this is an optional step, but I do recommend it because it yields a much neater result in the end. So let's move on. Okay, so here is my pocket now, and I have here the outside and the inside piece of fabric. And yeah, I'm putting it again pretty side on pretty side, as you can see here, the faux leather and this little piece for the inside. So now you can decide on the size, of course, if you want it wider or taller. I think this is a great way to take your phone with you shopping or something like that, but depending on what you want it for, the size might vary. What we do want to do here is basically do a stitch all around these edges, and we of course want to leave an opening on the one side just so we have a pocket shape. So we're doing the one side, the bottom, and the other side and the top we want to leave open. Okay, so I again separated the leftover pieces of fabric on the outside of the stitch, and we want to turn this inside out now. And make sure that you push out all of the corners so that they look nice and neat. You can also take this out with a regular pin carefully, and that way have a neat corner. Now what I want to do, which is optional, but I do recommend it, I'm going to iron over it, but not on the leather side, rather on the other one, just to have it a little bit neater. Okay, you guys, so you see here I did even a little fold so that I can keep everything neat. This is optional, but I am going to do an extra stitch on top of here just so I have kind of a fake good looking seam on the top of my pocket. And now is of course the time to check if all of your stitches are looking good, if everything is nicely aligned. We do still have the bottom open and we're going to use that later for our handles, but apart from that, we're pretty much done with the pockets, with the handles, and now we want to do the main piece and put everything together. Okay, so this is the bottom where, the leather is going to come. So I marked this where I folded it in half, and I just want to know where that spot is. And here is my little pocket that I'm going to put on here. So I do want to make this symmetrical. You can measure and just make sure that everything is really up to the millimeter aligned, or you can just kind of eyeball it and see if you can kind of do this without having to measure. So that's completely up to you. And then the folded section is on top. You can see that there, and we're just gonna stitch it up on the sides. Okay, so you can see here how I took the handles and I kind of put them on either side and pinned them all up to keep them all in place. And they're kind of going upwards here all the way to the top because I do want this visual effect here, and they are long enough so it's gonna work just fine. And then we are just basically returning on the other side, doing the same thing to the back, and then I again pinned it all together so that I can keep it in place with my clothespins. And that's it. So now what we want to do is just go along this long line and do a regular straight stitch, same thing on the other one. So this is the inside. And then when you do these two inside ones, the same thing you're going to repeat on the outside. That way everything is really sticking to the main piece of the bag, or the main section of the bag. So now if you would like optionally to not have this kind of break where you have a stitch and then you don't have it on top, what you can do is just continue the stitch or quit it or stop with it right here. So that's completely up to you. I'm gonna take these pins out just so I can show you. Before you get to this top section, I would recommend that you just kind of fold it a little bit, like 1 centimeter, or really not a lot of fabric, but just kind of fold it inwards a little bit before you do that section with your stitches, because it's going to make it a lot neater. This is of course optional, but you can try it out, and I think you're definitely going to be satisfied with the result. So before you get to that section, just take the pins out and then just fold it over and then go with the stitch over it. So it should be pretty simple to do, but that way you're really ensuring that you have a really nice seam without having to do an extra seam as an extra step. So that's all that we're gonna need. And then you can just get to up here and stop the stitch there, or you can just continue, basically just don't stop with the stitch and just go over the entire handle section. Or you can just do a line kind of across the ending here where the main piece is, and that way have that looking nicer. Okay, so this is what the finished piece looks like, and you can see here the handles are done, the pocket is working nicely, and we have everything. So you see I took a contrasting color just to kind of emphasize it a little bit. I did secure here on top, and you can see these thicker sections, so that's where I secured my stitches to keep them all in place. And I basically continued with the stitch throughout the entire thing so that you can see what it looks like. And then this piece is pretty much done right now, and you can see it here. So I have the back section exactly the same without the pocket, of course. So You can see here the pocket is missing, apart from that it's the same. The next step is to put the bottom on here. So what we want to do is do the front and the back piece as well, so both of them. And we're going to do that by unfolding this. So I'm just aligning it pretty side on pretty side, and then this bottom here that's still open, we want to close it off. So we're just going to do a stitch across here and then just close it off. That way we're not doing the same step twice and it's looking nicer. So we're going to do this with the front piece, and then the other side we're going to do, so this side here we're going to do with the back piece. Same thing. So now that I have this connected with the one and the other side, so with the front and the back, you can see here the back side without the pocket and the front side with the pocket. So now we have everything kind of connected, but the sides are still open. So we're just folding it in half, pretty side on pretty side. And a really good trick to know here how to align everything nicely is to align these stitches right here. And then you just want to do the sides all the way from the top to the bottom, and then left and right, of course, both. So after this step, you should have your bag turned inside out, but it is looking like a bag, kind of. So yeah, now you can see here the middle section as well as the bottom here, and everything is closed up, so there's no holes, nothing can fall out of it. And yeah, now what we want to do is just kind of do an optional step. You can take it as it is, or you can take these leather part corners here and just kind of pull them apart. So kind of pull the two sides away to get this little triangle forming right here. So I'm going to show you one more time so that it's easier to understand, but you're just taking the two sides and you're pulling them away from each other, and that way you get this little triangle right here. And now I'm just going to pin it so that it stays this way, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. And then what we want to do is just measure the length of like 5 or 10 or whatever you want centimeters on here, mark, and that way do the same on the other side so that it's looking good. So you can do a really little piece and then see what that looks like, or you can do a big piece right away. But either way, we just want to mark this line here and stitch across it, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. So this is why we're measuring, so that both sides are symmetrical and looking really good. And yeah, I'm going to do 10 centimeters here on both sides, and then I'm going to do a stitch across that line that I mark. After I do this stitch, I can cut off the triangles because I don't need them anymore. And then you have here lovely corners that your bag is kind of going to stand on. So you're kind of going to have a much more stable shape because of this step. So I'm going to turn it inside out so that I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so here is the bag right now, and you can see what it looks like. And when you fill it, of course, it's going to have a bit more rectangle shape, but for now it's just kind of laying flat there, and you can see what it looks like. So now what we're going to do is the inside, just so it looks a little bit nicer on the inside too. Okay, so we're putting it again pretty side on pretty side, and I'm making sure that I align the pattern in case you also have a pattern on your piece of fabric. And then we just want to align. And then when we do that, we want to do this side on the bottom here, this side on my left, and then upwards as well. So we want to do the 3 sides, and then the top one, of course, we're going to leave out. Now we're going to do the same step as with the outside. So we're again going to take a look at where our stitched corners are, and we're going to pull them apart, and we're again going to mark the 10 centimeters so that it all fits and is exactly the same as the outside. So again, the little triangles, and then we're going to mark and stitch across there and cut off the leftover excess fabric that we don't need. In my case, I'm doing 10 centimeters. The last step is going to be pulling over, so putting the outside piece over the inside piece over the outside piece. Okay, so now that everything is fitting nicely in here, I hid also my handles on the inside, and now what we want to do is just align everything, pin it so that it stays in place, and we're just going to do a stitch that connects the inside with the outside. So you may remember that I did a little bit sturdier background piece of fabric. I'm not sure what to call it, but yeah, I just made it a little bit more stable on the outside. So now what I'm going to do is just do a little opening on the inside piece of the fabric, and I'm going to do a stitch before this more stable section, so where I have just the 2 pieces of the lighter fabric, of the softer fabric, and I'm going to make sure that I don't catch my handles, and apart from that, it's supposed to be, or it's going to be pretty easy to stitch up. So let's do that now. So now that you did this, you just need to turn it inside out more easily, and I did the opening here on the side because I think it's going to be much more easy to hide when we do the extra or the very last stitch. But just take your time, make sure you don't rip anything, and turn it inside out. So I closed off the inside opening section, the hole that we had, and we're pretty much done now. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to let me know what you think. If you tried it out yourself, let me know how you did it and if you changed anything or if you did the exact same project. So thanks for watching DIY Ideas. As I said, it's always a pleasure to have you guys here. If you would like to see more, feel free to click on the subscribe button, and you can even click on the notification bell, and that way always get new updates when we post something new. So as I said, thanks for watching DIY Ideas. It's always great to have you here. Feel free to post any feedback in the comment section. That's as always below the video. If you have any wishes what we could do in the future, feel free to post that as well. And of course, if you have any questions, we're here for you guys. So again, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.